What kind of super student will you be? Welcome, 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 welcome to Lift Tutoring. Welcome to another video by Lift Tutoring. Love, instruction, foundation, teaching. Kindergarten Readiness. What kind of super student are you? Welcome to Lift Tutoring. Welcome to another edition, another podcast, another live stream connected through Twitter at Lift Tutoring on Twitter, Facebook at Lift Kinder. You can look us up, Kinder, on YouTube, Jeremy White Lift Tutoring. You can search Jeremy White Lift Tutoring. You can search Kindergarten Readiness, Jeremy White Lift Tutoring. And broadcasting through the internet. Today we are going to discuss something very close to my heart, and that a topic that is not always the easiest for parents and teachers to be able to discuss, simply because the teachers have they don't have a lot of time throughout the day to really sit down with every single parent for the time that would be necessary, which would be, hopefully whenever possible, to make sure that line of communication is clear. But real life happens. Teachers wear many hats. And on the flip side, another piece of the triangle, besides the student, is you, the parent. And you have your own life and career as well. So when it comes to teacher-parent interactions, there can be a lot of ways in which those interactions could turn out extremely positive and and have a positive impact for the rest of the parents' educational career as far as their children are concerned, or if it leaves a poor taste in your mouth that could set up a lot of other feelings, the negative feelings. So this podcast is specifically for the parents. It's not necessarily for anything that you can do with your kids, but this podcast is to give you a bit of an insight as to what exactly will help in maintaining a wonderful relationship and a clear, open communication relationship with your child's teacher, and not just for pre-kindergarten and kindergarten and first and second grade, but even just beyond that. So welcome to class. Here we go. So I'm going to list the top 5, and I'm actually going to list a bonus 6th one. Stick around to hear what that is towards the end. But before we get started, I want to mention that this episode is brought to you by Estelle and Gustav, written by me, Jeremy White. It's a children's book on Amazon. You can get it on Amazon.com. You can get it on the Kindle for $8 or a print for $12. But if you buy the print, you can get the Kindle version for $3. It's a fun read, and if you are interested in getting a signed copy, please email Estelle and Gustav, Gustoff, @gmail.com. All right, so getting into the show. So the top 5 things that, number 1 is what I would think about if I were to, offer some sort of advice for what parents can do to have better relationships with their child's teacher. Number 1 is follow through on your end. So I know, what does that mean? So I've had parents that have come up to me before, and they say, I said, when are you available for initial parent-teacher conference or a follow-up parent-teacher conference or a meeting about your child's progress, or even the meetings where we would have to hold a child back to do what's best for them so that they can get the foundation that they need. And there are three types of parents. There's parents that are difficult to get a hold of, even if you have email, cell phone, and even some apps and sending home notes. There's parents who are easy to get a hold of, but they don't follow through on the time that they said they were going to be there. And then there's the parents who are on time and following through and understand that teachers are having their, using their own time as well, because we can't have parent-teacher conferences during the day because we're teaching all of your wonderful children. So follow through on your end. That goes further into, I've had parents that have touched base with me in the beginning of the year and said, I'm really interested in what my child is learning, and I'm really looking forward to being able to set up a time with you. And I give them my schedule, and I say, please, here's my number, here's my email, please send me a text. Let me know when is best for you. I'll work around you. School ends at, let's say, 3:30. If you need to meet at 4:30, 5, depending on the day and depending on the parent and their schedule, I was willing to work around that if I could. And the hardest thing to stomach is either when a parent says we can meet and then don't show up, and then you have to reschedule. Especially for all my public school, even private school fellow teachers can attest to this. Sometimes those teacher work days, we're banking on being able to meet with. We have 20, 21, 22 kids, and that's in elementary. I know in middle school and high school that number can be a lot larger. And so to reschedule and not be able to reschedule on a teacher work day when you've got kind of all day to really hone in on that can be a lot. But beyond that, I would rather have personally speaking, I would rather have a parent who doesn't sugarcoat it or try to pretend like they want to meet about their child when really they're not taking the time. And I haven't had this happen often, but it's number one on my list right now, simply because it was the first thing that came to my mind when I thought about it. I would rather, if a parent's going to say, please, I'm really interested in knowing exactly what's going on. I'm willing to meet you anytime, and I give my schedule, and then, reach back out to me and let me know. I've dealt in the past with having parents say that, but then I never met with them throughout the year. And because their child is one out of 20 to 24, I can't chase you down. If I need, it needs to be a partnership. Number two, number two, understand that your child is, let me start one more time. Don't hold your child's previous teacher over your child's new teacher's head. So we all have experiences like relationships, whether they be friendships, close friendships, whether they be boyfriends, girlfriends, husbands, wives, even family. And sometimes we have a tendency to take a super positive experience or a super negative experience and really put that on the next person that we meet in whatever relationship it is. Obviously, don't take a negative experience with a teacher from the year before and believe that is going to translate into the teacher now. And even if it was you had a wonderful experience with a teacher, kind of start with a clean slate and really get to build that trust with every teacher every year and really get to, let them start from that. Obviously, you want to go in and have a positive outlook that your child is going to have a great experience with this teacher because they're doing it because they love it. But just kind of, and it's difficult to do because we're all human, and we revisit past experiences to interpret what will happen in the future. But this can be detrimental for so many reasons. You might have a new teacher who's trying to really be in survival mode those first couple months, and they love what they do. They're just trying to get bearing on what they're doing. You could have a teacher. You could have a master teacher, and if you never gave them a chance to show that they're a master teacher because your child didn't have necessarily the best teacher the year before, then you're doing them a disservice. You could have a teacher that's toward the end of their career, and they still care and they've got that fire, but it's not like it was when it was in the beginning. Just meet the teachers where they're at and try to keep that open flow of communication. The third thing, don't hold your past experiences with your teachers and assume that that's how your children are going to have it. I know that for some parents, school was not the place they wanted to be. They wouldn't set foot in a school because they had a bad experience in school. And again, that kind of goes back to the second point of, taking past experiences and putting them on and having them as an indicator for future experiences. But people are different year to year, administration to administration, the leadership in the school, where you might have went to school when you were a child. If you've been in the same hometown the whole time and your child's now at that school, it's not the same. Whether it's better or worse is not what I'm actually saying. It's just not the same. So again, just kind of go in with that. Just kind of go in with the idea that don't necessarily have any negative expectations, negative assumptions about what's going on. And I guess the last part about this is, not the last part, no, number 4 now. One great thing to do is there might be, you might be hearing about grass is not always greener on the other side. This would be my 4th point. And I said I was going to do 6, but actually there's 5, so I apologize. But this is going to be my 4th point. And the idea is that sometimes we as humans can get so caught up in what we're hearing from other people that we suddenly think our situation isn't the best that it absolutely could be. Appreciate where you are, where your child is, and who your child's teacher is, because that relationship can work as well as you want it to work. And I'm not taking away any onus from the teacher. They have a responsibility as well. But just to, focusing on the parent side of it, you might hear friends and neighbors talk about how wonderful their child's teacher is in another school, one county over. Or, if you would have just moved to this neighborhood, you would have had this teacher at this school, or that you would have been at this school. Some things in life are what you make it. And I know for a fact, I've taught in many different schools in Japan and in the United States where I dictated the environment that I wanted. So even though my 6 elementary schools that I taught at in Japan, they all had 6 really distinct personalities, I was able to pull the energy into those classrooms based on the positivity and the outlook that I was having for my students, even though the teachers were different, the principal was different, the leadership, the vice principals were different. The Board of Education had expected different things from the bigger schools rather than the smaller schools. So there's a lot of you can always, if you look for it, you can always find a reason not to like something. But if there's anything in this world that you should give a chance to work out the best way it can, is the education and the relationships that your children will be having with their teachers, because they're with those teachers for 5 days a week, for 9 months, 180 days, and you want that to be that outside of you and your family, the person that you entrust to be with your teacher, you want there to be the person you entrust to watch your children. You want that relationship to be as smooth and as open and as easily communicatable as possible, for not only your sake, because you're trusting this school to help get your child to where they need to be, but also for your children's sake, because the better relationships that teachers have with parents, parents with teachers, it helps that triangle of teacher, parent, student work so much better. I have many stories I could tell you of where, because I had the communication at home with mom, dad, or both, their child was performing better because they knew me and mom and dad talked on a regular. So our expectations and our language was similar from going to school and going home. Well, Mr. White said, you do it like this. He told me, so I'm going to say this. And then if let's say their child maybe didn't get enough sleep the night before, or was out of town over the weekend, a parent would come in, hey, I just want to let you know this happened this weekend. Keep an eye out for it today. That helps immensely. The last thing, fifth thing, like I said, there was going to be 6, but there are 5. Text messages. You've probably heard this in other arenas, especially in the business world, or really anything. Text messages are wonderfully convenient and extremely dangerous. Thankfully, I've had mostly positive feedback with text messages. I had actually an app where I could communicate with my parents as a group, and then they could communicate back with me one-on-one. So it was very easy to get announcements out. That app is called Remind, #not sponsored. So for any teachers who are listening to this, it's a great app. But I did have an instance where I thought that I was portraying something in a positive light, and it just came back extremely negative. And I had no idea how I had gotten there. I thought I was helping out, and apparently it was not received that way. So face-to-face, over the phone are the best bets. But if you're going to use text messaging, which we all do, if you are not sure of what your child's teacher meant in a certain text message, reach out to them. Be abundantly clear about and concise, and did you mean this or did you mean that? Because the worst thing that can happen is if you send a text message or a teacher sends a text message to you and you both assume that you meant something you didn't, and then you never bring it up, and then that tension builds, and then all of a sudden it's November and something that would have never happened prior to that happened. So be very conscientious of communication, and don't and know that your child's teacher got into the ideas that they got into teaching because they want to help children and that they care about children. So go in with that understanding of, I know my child's teacher is not doing this to to roll in money and being able to buy all these expensive cars and big houses. But so there's got to be a reason they're doing this. Now, is that to say that every single teacher has the same amount of passion and the same amount of care for their children? No. I'm not going to be the one to propagate that. But when you go in with the assumption that just like me, they are trying to do the best they can with what they have, then if you start there, you can let a relationship organically develop without preconceived notions one way or the other. And I guess that's the whole point of this particular podcast is your child's educational foundation and educational career could tip one way or the other, depending on the triangle relationship between the parent, teacher, and the student. If that relationship starts off as positive with open flow of communication, there's more likelihood that that child is going to be able to be receptive of what it is of the expectations that are presented to them by their teacher and their parent. And there's nothing more. And if you took a poll of teachers, I would say that most teachers, more than half, a lot more than half, would tell you that if it came down to getting more parent involvement and just open communication and being clear and supportive in that way, not necessarily showing up to all the PTOs and doing all the volunteer hours, but just that understanding parent that knows that school isn't just, okay, I'm the teacher, you learn, that's it. There's so many other things that happen throughout the day. Band-aids, bathroom breaks, water breaks, lunch, clean up. This person said something to this person. There's a tattletale. There's so many things that happen throughout the day. There's something that came down from the district. We just had a meeting about a change. We have to implement this in our classroom. We have to put this poster up. Make sure that our boards outside are done. Oh my goodness, make sure they're even. We're going to do Dr. Seuss Week. Dr. Seuss Week isn't just going to be fun. We're going to have to decorate our doors, and then we have to dress up. So now I got to go to Party City, and I got to figure out a costume where I have to take the time to do some paper mache. There's so many hats that we wear. And we do it because we love it. But further than that, if you took a poll that said, would you rather get gift cards from all your parents, or would you rather a smooth relationship with all your parents through the whole year, for Teacher Appreciation Week? I'm pretty sure that more than 3/4 would say a smooth relationship with the parents. Because when a parent and a teacher are on the same page towards working with their child, there isn't a lot of room for error, and there isn't a lot of room for miscommunication. There can be more emphasis placed on academic growth. So those are my 5 things. I think I actually might have gotten secretly into a 6th. I just didn't say it. Hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you are on YouTube, please like and subscribe our channel, Lift Tutoring. It's under Jeremy White. If you're listening through Facebook, thank you. Spreaker, Spreaker, Spreaker.com/Lift Tutoring, and Twitter @LiftTutoring, and also Instagram, Lift_tutoring on Instagram. I'll be having more videos coming in the next couple days. I'll actually should be able to have some videos with some former students. So look forward to that, and we will catch you in the next podcast or video. Have a great one. And remember to develop a love for lifelong learning.